The average prices of gasoline and diesel in Korea fell for the 10th consecutive week last week, with the average gas price dipping below 1,600 won per liter for the first time in 33 weeks.
지난주 국내 휘발유와 경유의 평균 판매 가격이 10주 연속 하락했으며 특히 휘발유는 33주 만에 처음으로 리터당 1,600원대 아래로 떨어진 것으로 나타났습니다. Tell us more.
So, the prices have gone down significantly.
Yeah.
The Dubai crude, which serves as Korea's benchmark, was $73.40 per barrel, which is down 40 cents from the previous week. So, gas prices are going down around the world. And certainly that's helping immediately for us as well when we go to fill up our cars at the gas pump.
Right. Good news for drivers, of course. Any price that goes down
Absolutely.
at the pump is good news.
Yeah, they're saying it's the first time that the prices have gone below 1,600 won in 33 weeks. So we're talking about a period that's more than half a year.
This is for gasoline, right?
Yeah, for gasoline. Yeah. And by the way, diesel prices have gone down as well. So prices across the board when it comes to fossil fuels have been going down. And once again, we're all able to benefit if you drive a car.
The thing about the word gasoline is that I get a little bit confused even now because in the UK people say petrol. And petrol is just petrol.
Yeah.
We don't shorten it to pet. But you shorten gasoline to gas.
Yes.
And so that's where it gets a little bit confusing because gas sounds like,
a state.
Yeah,
Yeah,
just
like
a
liquid,
vapor
gas.
sort of.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Or
But
solid.
it's not that when we talk about fuel.
Yeah, absolutely. We're talking about the actual stuff that you put into your car that burns and allows your engine to run.
Do you call the accelerator the gas pedal?
Yes, we do. Yes.
So that gas is also gasoline initially, I think.
Yeah, it would be. It'd be
Right.
considered that. But because as you mentioned, when you can confuse gas, what it's compared to would be gas, liquid, solid,
Right.
which are the three different states of something that something can be when it comes to chemistry.
Exactly. 자, 우리가 연료 얘기할 때는요, 휘발유를 gas 내지는 gasoline이라고 하는데요. gasoline을 그냥 줄여서 gas라고 하는 것이지 기체 가스는 아닙니다. 그래서 저처럼 헷갈리시면 안 되고요. 이제 뭐 기체 얘기가 나왔으니까 기체는 gas, 액체는 liquid, 고체는 solid 이렇게 표현을 하고요. 여기서 말하는 가스는 뭐 그거 아니지만 gasoline, gas prices, gas pedal 다 차와 관련된 얘기일 때는 휘발유의 의미를 가지고 있고 엑셀 이제 페달 있잖아요. 요거는 이제 그냥 어떤 차든지 간에 gas pedal이라고 부르는 것 같아요.
Yeah.
뭐 그냥 accelerator 해도
Accelerator,
되지만.
you can call it as well. But yeah, I think most people just say gas because it's shorter. It's one syllable, so gas, brake, anything that we can do to shorten a long word, we take advantage of that.
Keep it short and sweet. Okay, let's look at the term average prices.
Average prices is the price or the prices that you're going to get when you take all the different number of prices around the city or country and then divide it by the number of prices that you are comparing. So let's say in Gimpo, maybe it's 1,500 won for a liter of gas, but in Gangnam, it's 1,800 per liter. Maybe somewhere in Busan, it could be 15,500. So you divide that up by the number of things, and then you're going to get the price that's somewhere in the middle of all of those.
네, 평균 가격이 하나만 언급될 때는 당연히 단수로 쓰셔야 되고요. average price. 그런데 여기서는 휘발유 그리고 경유의 평균 가격들인 거잖아요.
Yeah.
물론 한국어로는 우리말로는 이제 평균 가격들 하진 않지만 영어에서는 단수와 복수를 확실하게 구별해 줘야 되거든요. 그래서 여기선 수치가 두 개가 언급이 되고 있기 때문에 average prices 이렇게 쓰고 있고요. 그 다음에는 dipping 보겠습니다.
Dipping is when something goes down. And the way I'm going to help you to remember this is if you were to have, let's say, like a chicken nugget or a French fry that you want to dip into a sauce, you're putting it down that's going down into the sauce before you eat it. So you're putting it into something and it's slightly getting sauced before you eat it. But in your mind, think of it as something that's going down into the sauce because you're not pushing it up into the sauce. But when you are dipping or something like prices are dipping, maybe a stock is dipping in price, it means that it's going down.
Exactly. dip라는 동사, 명사 다 있습니다. 그래서 이제 명사로 썼을 때는 우리가 찍어 먹는 소스 같은 거예요. 왜냐면 찍어서 먹잖아요. 요 행위를 생각하시면 됩니다. 그다음에 동사 dip도 역시 이렇게 찍어서 내려가는 것 같은 내려간다라는 뜻이 있어요. 또 하나 Big Dipper라는 게 있습니다. 요게 뭐죠?
Yeah, the Big Dipper is like a ladle. I guess in Korean it'd be like a gukja.
Yeah. We call it the 북두칠성.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, which is the stars,
Yeah,
right.
the constellation.
Yeah.
So there's 7 stars that make up the Big Dipper because it looks like a big gukja in the sky.
Exactly. 맞아요. 북두칠성이 영어로는 Big Dipper, 큰 국자예요. 그런 의미가 되겠습니다. 모양이 딱 그렇죠? 자, 그럼 다시 한번 읽어보겠습니다. The average prices of gasoline and diesel in Korea fell for the 10th consecutive week last week, with the average gas price dipping below 1,600 won per litre for the first time in 33 weeks. Let's move on to the next headline.
Nations worldwide have begun evacuating citizens from Lebanon due to the escalating conflict between Israel and Hezbollah, with South Korea repatriating 97 nationals and family members on Saturday.
이스라엘과 레바논 무장정파 헤즈볼라 간의 분쟁이 격화되면서 세계 각국이 자국민 대피 조치를 시작한 가운데 우리나라에도 지난 토요일 레바논 체류 한국인 및 가족 97명이 도착했습니다. Tell us more.
So 97 people from Korea has returned back to Korea. There are still 30 South Koreans that we know of that are remaining in the area. Of course, there are some tensions going on in Lebanon because of the conflict between Israel and Hezbollah. So the country has brought the majority of these people back home to safety, and they are keeping a watch on the other 30 that we know of that remain there.
Yeah, most of them work for the embassy there and they have chosen to stay. So let's have a look at our first expression, which is the escalating conflict.
Yeah, so something that is escalating, think about an escalator. And the escalator is like a moving set of stairs that usually are going to take you up. So if something is escalating, think of it as rising up or getting bigger or on its way higher.
Exactly. 자, escalating이라는 것은 점점 높아지고 있다, 고조된다, 격화된다라는 의미가 있죠. 그래서 격화되는 분쟁, escalating conflict.
Yeah, so in this case, what is escalating? It is the conflict. And a conflict is sort of a situation that is getting worse or is not stable. So you could be an argument between two sides, but it's something that is, I guess you could say, less than peaceful.
그래서 사실은 이제 에스컬레이터를 연상하라고 선생님들이 말씀을 많이 하시죠. 저도 그 얘기를 하긴 하는데 근데 이렇게 반문을 제기할 수 있어요. 에스컬레이터를 타고 내려가기도 하잖아요. 맞아요. 맞지만 원래 에스컬레이트라는 요 동사는 올라간다는 의미밖에 없습니다. 근데 이제 에스컬레이터를 편의상 우리는 타고 올라가기도 하고 내려오기도 하고 뭐 그렇지만 원래는 올라가는 요 모양새다. 이렇게 보시면 되겠고요. Repatriate or repatriate. Let's look at that.
Yeah, in the North America side, we say repatriating, which basically means to return to their former country. We have Koreans that are there in the area, but they've taken a plane and they've returned 97 Koreans back to South Korea. So you're basically bringing them back to where they're from.
자, repatriate하고 repatriate 두 가지 발음 다 가능하고요. 본국으로 돌아온다는 뜻이 있습니다. 그래서 지금 레바논에서 체류하고 있었던 한국인과 그 한국인의 가족 총 97명이 토요일 날 귀국을 했습니다. 여기에는 이제 한국 국적 96명, 그리고 가족인데 레바논 국적인 1명 포함해가지고 97명이 돌아왔다고 하고요. 그 외에는 이제 교민 한 30여 명이 이제 대사관 직원 등등이 있는데 현지에 남아 있는 상황이 되겠습니다.
And by the way, it's not just Korea that is repatriating citizens back to our country. Canada, as an example, has 6,000 people that have signed up to leave the area. Brazil has, 3,000 nationals that are ready to leave. So it's not just Korea. It's countries around the world are all leaving the area.
Exactly. 자, 우리나라도 이제 군 수송기를 이용해서 이렇게 귀국을 했는데 마찬가지로 다른 나라에서도 지금 굉장히 빠르게 어떻게 해서든지 지금 분쟁 상황 속에서 좀 피해를 덜 입게끔 자국으로 본국으로 수송을 하고 있는 그런 상황이 되겠습니다. 자, 다시 한번 읽어볼게요. Nations worldwide have begun, evacuating citizens from Lebanon due to the escalating conflict between Israel and Hezbollah, with South Korea repatriating 97 nationals and family members on Saturday.
Stray Kids' mini album 8 has been recognized as the top-selling K-pop album in the United States and the fourth best-selling album overall this year, according to the group's agency.
그룹 스트레이 키즈의 미니 음반 8가 올해 지금까지 미국에서 가장 많이 팔린 K-팝 앨범인 동시에 전체 앨범 판매량에서도 4위를 기록했다고 소속사가 발표했습니다. All right, so good on Stray Kids for this amazing achievement.
Absolutely. And they, by the way, are also scheduled to perform at this year's American Music Awards, also known as the AMAs. It's the 50th anniversary special on Sunday. And with this, they will become just the second K-pop group ever to do so after BTS. So that is some very select company to be a part of for Stray Kids.
Well, it says in the headline that they, with the fourth best-selling album, this album 8 was, ATE, and I noticed, so we have Taylor Swift, Travis Scott, and Billie Eilish, and then it's Stray Kids.
Yeah, the fourth best-selling overall.
Right,
so
right.
the best K-pop album, but in terms of overall, that they are fourth in the world, basically.
Yep. All right, let's have a look at the word top selling.
Top selling is top, you think of the best, essentially. And selling is when you're selling something, you're receiving money for a service or a product. So in this case, their album is the best selling. People want it more than any other album when it comes to K-pop this year.
top selling, best selling이랑 비슷해요. 가장 많이 팔렸다. top니까 이제 가장 많은, 가장 위에 있다 이런 의미가 되겠죠. And overall
is when you consider everything. So as I mentioned, it's the top selling album when it comes to K-pop. If you take that one genre, now there's so many other genres. So maybe like another album is going to be the best rap album. There might be another group that has the best rock album. And so there's going to be all these different genres of music. But overall, when you include every different genre, well, Stray Kids album 8, that would be number 4 overall.
그렇죠. overall이라는 것은 전반적으로, 전체적으로 봤을 때라는 뜻입니다. 그리고 우리 옷 중에요. overalls가 있어요. S 붙여가지고.
Yeah. Overalls are something that you usually wear to cover your full body. If you think of maybe like a mechanic, will usually wear overalls so that the clothes inside doesn't get dirty.
그렇죠. 이게 작업복 같은 건데 보통 이제 멜빵 위에 있고 그다음에 하나로 이렇게 그 바지까지 쭉 이어지는 옷 있잖아요. 이런 거를 이게 overall이라는 단어가 아까 전반적이다, 뭐 전체적이다라고 했죠. 이게 몸을 거의 전체적으로 가리는, 뭐 덮는 그런 옷이다라고 해서 보통 이제 작업복 같은 거, overalls, S 붙여야 돼요. 우리가 바지도 그렇고 이렇게 두 개일 때는 꼭 S를 붙입니다. 의상도. 자, 그러면 다시 한번 헤드라인 읽어볼게요. Stray Kids' mini album 8 has been recognized as the top-selling K-pop album in the United States and the fourth best-selling album overall this year, according to the group's agency. Now let's move on to the next headline.
Argentina's President Javier Milei has been accused of plagiarizing a chunk of his recent speech to the United Nations General Assembly from the U.S. political drama The West Wing.
오케이. 자, 아르헨티나의 하비에르 밀레이 대통령이 최근 유엔 총회에서 한 연설의 일부가 미국 정치 드라마 웨스트윙의 대사를 표절했다는 의혹이 제기됐습니다. Right, so first of all, what did he say? And then let's see what the TV series, what the line was in the TV series.
So he said, "We believe in freedom of speech for everybody. We believe in freedom to worship for everybody. We believe in freedom of trade for everybody." Now, in episode 15 of season 4, the drama says, "We're for freedom of speech everywhere. We're for freedom to worship everywhere. We're for freedom to learn for everybody."
It's very similar.
Oh, it's it's so similar that it seems obvious that that's where it came from. And do note, the first one that I read, although in English, this was actually spoken in Spanish.
Right.
So it was a translation, but meaning that it could, technically translate directly into exactly what was said.
Yeah.
It depends on how you feel about the translation, but certainly the gist, the order of each of the things that he mentions, it's in the exact same order as how it was in the West Wing. So, yeah, it does seem quite obvious.
미국의 TV 드라마 중에 미국 정부에 대한 내용을 주제로 하고 있는 그런 TV 드라마가 있어요. 웨스트윙이라고. 근데 거기에 나오는 대사랑 거의 똑같은 연설을 아르헨티나의 대통령이 해서 따라한 거 아니냐. 뭐 이렇게 그런 의혹이 제기가 되는데 뭐 참고했다라고 뭐 할 수도 있을 것 같지만 지금 아직 노코멘트인가요? 뭐 특별히 무슨 공식 발표가 있었던 것 같지는 않아요. 어쨌든 이제 봤을 때 굉장히 비슷합니다. But it's not the first time a head of state has I guess taken cues from this particular TV series West Wing because I believe Theresa May, back in 2017,
Yes.
the UK Prime Minister, she was also accused of copying lines from this same TV series.
I think it seems that it's a very popular political drama. So, in the drama, there's like a president and all the different levels of politics. So when they say certain lines that might seem inspiring to the public that, have a catchy way of delivering a message, then I can see how it would be easy for them to quote certain lines of the drama. But plagiarizing is definitely a little bit different than quoting, I think.
Let's look at that term then, plagiarizing.
Yeah, so plagiarizing is literally stealing or copying somebody else, but usually without permission and also without giving credit to. So to take something that somebody else has created or made up and you're going to just copy it or speak it verbatim and then not give credit to the actual where it came from.
It's a serious crime, especially if you're writing a thesis at school. I'm sure as a student, you've probably heard this countless times.
Many, many times.
Quote your sources.
Yes.
Or else you'll be accused of plagiarism. 표절하는 거죠. Plagiarize, 표절하다. 자, 그다음에 a chunk of something.
A chunk of something is a portion of something. And I don't know if there's like an actual percentage, but it's not a large number. Like, let's say 50%, I wouldn't call that a chunk. Like when you're talking 50%, the first thing that comes to mind is half, right? But maybe like 10 or 20% of something you could consider a chunk, like a considerable portion, but certainly not the majority of something.
chun크라는 거는 하나의 덩어리, 어떤 큰 부분이라는 뜻이 있습니다. 그러니까 이 TV 드라마 시리즈에 나왔었던 꽤 긴 대사, 요거를 좀 통째로 가져와가지고 유엔 총회에서 그대로 표절한 게 아니냐라는 의혹이 지금 제기가 되고 있거든요. 그래서 뭐 한두 개의 단어 정도가 아니라 큰 부분, big chunk, 뭐 big라는 단어는 여기 없지만 a chunk of something이라는 표현이 나왔습니다.
I think of like chocolate chip cookies.
Sure.
And chocolate chip cookies are cookies that have, a little bit of pieces of chocolate in there. But more recently, a lot of these cookie companies have been changing the name of their cookies from chocolate chip to chocolate chunks.
Okay.
So these portions, the chocolate chip has been getting a little bit bigger. And then the shape, it's not like that, chocolate chip form anymore.
Right,
It's been
right.
changed into a random sort of a piece that they're calling chunks.
그러네요.
Yeah, they're usually a little bit bigger.
Exactly.
So, yeah.
여러분 한번 상상해 보세요. 초코칩 쿠키 같은 거, 이 칩이라는 거는 사실 굉장히 작은 덩어리거든요. 근데 요즘에는 초코칩 말고 초코 청크라는 표현을 많이 쓴답니다. 초콜릿 덩어리를 좀 큰 거를 넣는 거죠. 쿠키 안에다가. 요거 맛있죠. 자, 그럼 다시 한번 읽어보겠습니다. Argentina's President Javier Milei has been accused of plagiarizing a chunk of his recent speech to the United Nations General Assembly from the US political drama The West Wing. And here's our final headline.
The bidding for the 50th home run ball that secured Shohei Ohtani of the Los Angeles Dodgers a spot as the sole member of the 50-50 club has approached $2 million, making it the second most expensive home run ball in history.
메이저리그 최초로 50홈런 50도루를 달성한 로스앤젤레스 다저스 소속 오타니 쇼헤이 선수의 50번째 홈런공이 현재 진행 중인 경매에서 $200만 육박하는 입찰가를 기록하면서 역대 두 번째로 비싼 홈런공 지위를 확보했습니다. Alright, so let's talk about this.
So Shohei Ohtani this year became the first ever baseball player to hit 50 home runs and steal 50 bases in the same season. So that's why they call it the 50-50 club.
Okay.
And it's a very difficult task to do because when you think of a home run hitter in baseball, you think of a person that's going to be pretty big. And certainly Shohei Ohtani is pretty big, as about 6'4", I believe. So he's well over 190 centimeters.
Wow.
However, when you're a bigger person, then you're not very often that you're going to be fast or certainly quick, which is required to steal bases. So that's why it's so rare and why it's never been done before. And the 50th home run that he hit, it's become, like a very significant ball in history. And now it's being auctioned for, over $2 million, or almost $2 million as of now.
Yeah.
The bidding is continuing to go up, though.
Do you often see people getting one or the other? So is it like 50 home runs or 50, what's the other one?
50 stolen bases.
50 stolen bases,
Yeah.
but not both.
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah.
Oh,
So it's
interesting.
even doing 40 and 40 is very difficult, and even 30 and 30 is considered a career milestone. So the fact that he's doing 50 and 50 is just ridiculous. And there have been many, many people that have hit over 50 home runs in a season. More than, I would say probably more than 20. I'm just guesstimating. And I'm sure there's more than 30 or 40 that have stolen 50 bases in a season. But no one has done both until Shohei Ohtani.
Well, that's why he's raking in the big bucks.
And that's why that baseball, that home run ball is worth so much money. It's the second most expensive of all time already because Mark McGwire's 70th home run ball back in 1998 sold for $3 million. And I might add that both of that ball as well as this ball right now are being contested in terms of ownership because when the ball's hit, you can imagine everybody wants to catch this ball because that could be $1 million baseball. So what would you do to catch $1 million baseball when somebody else next to you is going for it as well? So there's a lot of different people saying, hey, I actually caught it, but he took it from me or he punched me to get, there's accusations
It touched my fingers first.
Yeah, so who actually owns the baseball? Other people are contesting that, it's actually theirs.
Interesting. All right, well, let's get to our expression. The first one is to secure a spot.
If you secure a spot, you're sort of guaranteeing something. You've made yourself gain something that is now yours. You could say that you've secured a ticket for a concert, perhaps, so that you were able to actually buy this, even though everyone else was trying to buy the same ticket. You got it. You officially own it. You secured a ticket.
네, 어떤 자리나 위치를 확보하는 거를 secure a spot라고 하는데요. 여기서는 그 50-50 클럽에서 한 자리를 차지했다. 근데 이게 들어가기 굉장히 힘든 뭐 클럽은 아니지만 이를테면은 굉장히 힘든 그 위치다라고 설명을 해주셨어요. 근데 영어에서는 사실 이 클럽이라는 말을 굉장히 광범위하게 넓게 씁니다. 그래가지고 최근에도 제 후배가 한 명 결혼을 했어요. 그래서 제가 Welcome to the 유부 클럽 이렇게 했어요. 진짜 이런 클럽은 없지만 이렇게 말하는 것처럼 이제 지금 여기 보면은 Shohei Ohtani has, I guess, joined the 50-50 club. Although there's not really a Is there a club?
Well,
진짜 있는 건 아니겠죠?
Yeah, well, I mean, we would say in terms, we say like the 40-40 club or 30-30 club because there's other members of it.
Yeah.
What they should actually be saying is that he created the 50-50 club
okay,
because
well,
there weren't any members in it before. He's the first to do it. So because of that, you could actually say that he created the 50-50 club.
He's the creator of the 50-50 club. 그래요. 이 50-50 클럽의 뭐 창시자? 네, 진짜 그런 클럽은 있는 건 아니지만 이제 그런 위치에 올랐다라고 할 수 있겠고요. 자, 그다음에 soul member라는 게 바로 여기서 나오는 겁니다. 왜냐하면 이제 처음 한 거잖아요.
Exactly.
그러니까 클럽이라는 말이 나왔으면 멤버도 나와야 되는데 soul member예요. S-O-L-E.
Yeah, so soul in this case, as mentioned, S-O-L-E, is the only member. And you think of, there's a movie called Soul Survivor, meaning that that person was the only survivor of a mission gone bad. So yeah, when we're talking about a soul person, a soul member, you're talking about one, the only member.
자, soul, S-O-L-E는 유일하다, 한 명이다라는 뜻이 있습니다. 그래서 soul member는 유일한 구성원이다 이런 의미가 되겠죠. 제가 이제 주변에 보면은 저한테 너 언제 고양이 입양할 거니? 언제 강아지 입양할 거니? 이렇게 말씀하시는 분들이 많이 계시거든요. 그래서 join the club 계속 그렇게 얘기해요. 그래서 그럴 때도 이제 비유적인 거예요. 어서 너도 해라. 근데 지금은 이제 Shohei Ohtani has become the sole member of the 50-50 club. He's the only one there, but maybe other people will join
Sometime in the future, hopefully.
All right, well, here's the headline again. The bidding for the 50th home run ball that secured Shohei Ohtani of the Los Angeles Dodgers a spot as the sole member of the 50-50 club has approached $2 million, making it the second most expensive home run ball in history. Right, well, those were our 5 headlines with Jason Lee.
The country's foreign currency reserves increased by more than $4 billion in September amid the depreciation of the greenback, according to the Bank of Korea.
한국은행에 따르면 지난 9월 우리나라 외환 보유액이 미국 달러화 약세 기조에 따라 40억 달러 이상 증가한 것으로 나타났습니다. Tell us more.
Yes, so at the end of September, we were up $4.05 billion from August to $419.97 billion. That's a lot of money in reserve. And they're saying that this is because there was a rise in the converted value of non-dollar assets and also a depreciation of the dollar itself. So as of the end of August, we were 9th in the world in terms of these foreign exchange reserves, these foreign currency reserves. China's at number 1 with over $3 trillion, then Japan and Switzerland in 2nd and 3rd.
You've mentioned the word reserve quite a few times there. What does it mean?
Well, it's what you store. It's what you keep back. I like to keep energy in reserve for the show. I want to make sure I've got enough whiz and pizzazz to keep going for the whole 2 hours. So when we talk about reserves of something, it could be oil, it could be money, it could be biscuits if you really want. But
exactly.
The point is you're keeping it somewhere. You're keeping it in stock.
So it's a noun in this case.
Yes.
자, 명사로서 reserve라는 단어를 쓰게 되면은요, 비축된 것, 비축물이라는 뜻입니다. 그러니까 이게 과자가 될 수도 있고 내가 이렇게 아껴둔 비축해 놓은 식량이 될 수도 있고 선생님이 조금 전에 얘기한 아니면은 이제 돈이 될 수도 있고요. 이 경우처럼 여기서 이제 뭐 에너지도 될 수가 있겠죠. save 해둔 에너지. 근데 여기서는 이제 우리가 우리나라의 외환 보유액을 얘기하고 있습니다. 영어로는 foreign currency reserves라고 표현을 하네요. The next one is greenback.
Not a frog or a toad. It's a dollar. Some animals have greenbacks, but so do dollars. If you've ever seen one, I don't think they're as green as they used to be. I have a feeling when I was watching movies in the 80s, they felt greener. But certainly that's their nickname. And to be honest, many currencies have these kind of nicknames.
Yep.
For example, when we talk about the British pound, sterling is the word often used on the stock exchange. For the Canadian dollar, they call it the loonie, which is the name of a bird, I think.
I think so, yeah.
The Australian dollar can be the Aussie, the Swiss franc can be the Swissy, the New Zealand dollar can be either a fruit or a bird, a kiwi. And the one that always confused me was the Chinese currency, the yuan, because I never knew which one was right. I saw RMB and I saw yuan. I was like, do they have two currencies?
It's the same.
I was confused for a while.
Yeah, exactly. RMB being renminbi, but it's just shortened oftentimes. 그러니까 그 화폐를 뜻하는 여러 가지 명칭들이 있는 거죠. 미국의 화폐는 미국의 지폐, 우리가 뭐 당연히 달러이고 그런데 이제 그 지폐 같은 경우에는 특히 동전 말고 지폐요.
네.
그 미국의 달러이면서 지폐다. 뭐 이거 너무 길잖아요. 그러니까 그냥 greenback라는 표현을 쓸 수가 있는 거고 꼭 뭐 지폐고 동전이고 이런 걸 떠나서 그냥 달러라는 의미로 greenback를 이렇게 경제 뉴스에서 많이 씁니다.
네, 맞습니다.
그러니까 뭐 달러 대비 뭐뭐뭐 아니면은 미국 달러화가 가치가 올라갔다 내려갔다 이런 얘기 할 때도 the US dollar, the value of the US dollar rose, it depreciated 이런 표현 쓸 수도 있지만 the greenback depreciated 이렇게 표현하기도 하죠.
Yeah, and so do you know why the Korean currency only has a single name?
No.
Because it's the won.
It's the one. Right, indeed. 자, 그러면 다시 한번 제가 읽어보겠습니다. The country's foreign currency reserves increased by more than $4 billion in September amid the depreciation of the greenback, according to the Bank of Korea. Let's move on to the second headline.
The United Nations has estimated that over 42 million tons of debris has accumulated in Gaza, including both damaged structures that are still standing and buildings flattened during Israel's military campaign against the Palestinian militant group Hamas.
유엔은 팔레스타인 무장단체 하마스에 대한 이스라엘의 공격으로 가자 지구에 남겨진 건물 잔해가 완전히 무너진 건물 및 일부 남아있는 구조물을 포함해서 모두 4,200만 톤이 넘게 쌓여 있는 것으로 추산했습니다. That's a lot of debris.
It is. Yesterday was the anniversary, October 7th, when Hamas's attack on Israel shocked the world. And we've seen over the past year Israel chasing after the leaders of Hamas and destroying buildings on the way. If we look at 2008 to 2023 and the amount of rubble that was accumulated in Gaza, it's 14 times that in just 1 year. So it's a huge amount of debris and rubble. Wow. It's 5 times the amount that was left after the Battle of Mosul in Iraq in 2016, 2017. And they say that if you piled it all up, it would be the size of it would be 11 times the size of the Great Pyramid of Giza. It would fill it up 11 times.
Wow.
So we're talking about a huge amount of damage. When we look at buildings and structures, 2/3 of them have been damaged or flattened. So we're talking over 160,000 buildings. And the war in Gaza continues. We don't know when it will end. We don't know when the hostages will return. But certainly, I think the world has been stunned and shocked by the past actions of the past year.
Yeah, absolutely. 네, 지금 지난 1년 동안 가자 지구에 쌓여 있는 debris, 잔해의 양이요 어마어마합니다. 2008년부터 2023년까지 가자 지구에서 있었던 모든 잔해의 양보다 14배 정도가 많은 양의 그런 debris, 잔해가 지난 1년 동안 이제 생겨난 것이죠. 계속 서로 이렇게 폭파하고 공격하고 그러다 보니까 자, 잔해라는 얘기, debris 지금 계속 언급을 했습니다. Let's look at that.
Yes, so debris spelt D-E-B-R-I-S, but the S is silent.
So you
coming from
don't
the
say
French.
debris.
I have never heard debris in my life.
No.
I've heard debris, but that's talking about the wind.
Yes.
But no, we say debris. And that is all sorts of rocks, rubble, broken bricks, whatever it may be that is left over after something like a structure or a building has been destroyed.
Exactly. 구조물이나 건물이나 이런 것들이 이제 무너졌을 때, 그 벽돌, 무너진 돌들, 뭐 그런 여러 가지 것들이 쌓이잖아요. 요런 잔해. 이런 거를 영어로는 debris라고 하고요. S가 붙어 있는 단어지만 S 발음을 하지 않습니다. 자, 그 다음에 flatten.
When we normally use this term, well, it means to make something flat. So, for example, if you're making a Korean pancake, maybe you're making a delicious pajeon, it's looking a bit puffy, you push it down to get it crispy, you flatten it.
Yeah.
But here, when we're talking about war and we're talking about buildings, it means if a building is flattened, it's completely destroyed.
Exactly.
You know, we can say that there's a damaged building that has some of the structure remaining. If it's flattened, it's gone.
Yep. When you make a shape, a different shape, you add en at the end. So if you flatten a shape, you are making it flat.
Yes.
You can also widen, lengthen, heighten, shorten, and they all have en at the end, but the shape changes. And it's just another way of saying to make this shape like whatever the word is.
Yeah, and if you're me, you discover the word fatten.
Fatten is
Got fatter.
자, 이렇게 en을 붙이면은 그런 이제 모양새가 된다는 건데 flatten이라는 것은 납작하게 만들다라는 뜻입니다. 자, 그러면 다시 한번 제가 읽어볼게요. The United Nations has estimated that over 42 million tons of debris has accumulated in Gaza, including both damaged structures that are still standing and buildings flattened during Israel's military campaign against the Palestinian militant group Hamas. One other thing about debris is that it's a singular noun and it's not countable. You
Yes.
cannot count it.
It's like bread,
Yeah.
for example. We don't say one bread, two breads,
Yeah,
usually.
or one debris, two debris.
Yeah,
No,
we say
no.
a pile of debris or a piece of debris.
That's right.
A recent analysis by the British magazine The Economist has identified Korean therapeutic novels, which surged in popularity following the COVID-19 pandemic, as the latest K-trend making waves overseas.
영국 시사주간지 이코노미스트가 코로나19 유행 이후 인기가 급상승한 한국의 힐링 소설을 현재 해외에서 각광받는 최신 한국 트렌드로 꼽았습니다. 힐링 소설, therapeutic novels.
Yeah, and there's a lot of them about that have just recently been translated into English. For example, there was the one about the Dalagut Dream Department Store. We've had the Hyunamdong Bookstore that was translated into English, the Yeonamdong Smiley Laundromat, and now we have the Marigold Mind Laundry, which is the latest one. It's written by Yoon Jung-un, translated by Shanna Tan, a Singaporean translator, who is translating a lot of these therapeutic novels. And it's amazing to see that these have become big. I think it wasn't a novel that started it, but it was tteokbokki that started it.
Okay.
I Want to Die, But I Want to Eat Tteokbokki. And its sequel have been big hits. I think maybe because RM, for example, from BTS was recommending that as one of his must-reads.
Sure.
But certainly, maybe more than dramas, maybe more than movies. I don't know whether it's more than music, but certainly these therapeutic novels, these healing novels are coming to the fore.
I have been noticing a lot of online book clubs popping up here and there, you know, social media influencers recommending books quite a lot and Korean books popping up as well. So, you know, all of this ties in together, I think, with this story.
Yeah, and I have to say, I've read all of them that I've mentioned apart from the Marigold Mind Laundry, which is on my shelf, actually. I got it last week.
So my question is,
Yes.
did you find them therapeutic?
To greater and lesser extents, yes. I mean, the one set in Yeonamdong, which is my neighborhood almost, about the laundromat and about people helping each other, it was really cozy and it was really lovely. And I got to the end and I thought, yeah, it's good to live in Korea. There is hope, there is help, there is friendship.
Sure. Well, let's look at that word, therapeutic. You've mentioned it, and
Yes.
I think our listeners have a sort of understanding of what it means, but tell us more.
Well, let's look at the root therapy. We can have physical therapy or we can have emotional therapy. You can go and see a therapist if you're having various emotional problems.
Sure.
So if something is therapeutic, it's going to help you in some ways. So it could be helping the body, but in this case, we're talking about helping the mind. I think the Korean expression you used in the headline sums it up really well, and we
Yeah.
can use it in English. Healing.
우리는 이제 힐링 소설이라고 하잖아요. 근데 영어로는 healing이라고 하면은 진짜 상처를 치유하는 그런 의미를 좀 더 많이 가지고 있기 때문에 여기서는 healing book보다는 therapeutic book가 좀 더 어울릴 것 같아요. 자, therapy가 이제 이것도 역시 원래는 치료죠.
네.
그런데 이제 therapeutic 그러면은 치유하는 그런 느낌의 이런 뜻이 되겠습니다. 그다음에 therapist라고 하면은 이런 이제 치유해주는 사람인데 이게 사실은 이제 상담사
네.
분들이죠. 심리 상담을 해주시는 분들. 그리고 우리가 그냥 통칭으로 therapist라고 얘기할 수
You
있습니다.
can have a physical therapist. If you break your leg, when you're healing and getting back to normal, you will go to the physical therapist who will
Yes,
give you
that's right.
exercises to help you.
그러네요. 심리 상담사만 therapist가 아니라
네.
우리가 몸 아플 때 뭐 물리치료사도
네, 맞습니다.
therapist가 될 수 있고 뭔가 치유해주거나 치료해주거나 이런 분들에게 therapist라는 좀 broad한 그런 이름을 붙여줄 수가 있을 것 같아요.
We even have hypnotherapy.
yes,
Hypnotherapists
that's right.
that help people through hypnotism.
최면을 하는 최면이 영어로는 hypnotherapy거든요. 그래서 hypnotherapist는 이거 최면을 하는 사람이 되겠죠. 최면술?
최면 치료하는 사람이에요. When you
최면
hypnotist, hypnotist is just doing hypnosis, but
네.
hypnotherapy is treatment
그래요.
through hypnosis.
네, 자 그럼 다시 돌아와서 therapeutic, and this word is used a lot when you talk about something that makes you feel good inside. You go, you know that movie?
Yeah.
It was so therapeutic.
Exactly, or maybe you need a night out with your friends to talk about life and to
yeah.
sort out the problems of the world. And when it's over, you say, that was so therapeutic. I
That's so
needed
true.
that.
Yeah, a little girls' night out in my case, or just a simple coffee shop meet up with a friend can be therapeutic.
Just a little tea and sympathy, as we say in the UK.
그래요. 이제 therapeutic가 그래서 이렇게 정말 많이 씁니다. 그냥 좀 내가 힐링이 되는 것 같은 것들에는 다 붙일 수 있어요. 자, 그 다음에는 to make waves.
Well, if you make waves, you can literally make waves in the ocean, or you can make waves in society, meaning people notice you, meaning you have an impact on people, meaning you're maybe becoming more famous, people are talking about you, you're getting more well-known.
파동을 일으키다. 즉 여기서는 주목을 끈다라는 뜻으로 보면 되겠죠. The latest K-trend that's making waves is the therapeutic book.
Yes, and good luck to all the book readers. I hope
Yeah.
you enjoy them.
네, more specifically therapeutic novels.
Yes.
Here's the headline again. A recent analysis by the British magazine The Economist has identified Korean therapeutic novels, which surged in popularity following the COVID-19 pandemic, as the latest K-trend, making waves overseas. Let's move on to the next headline.
Scientists have found that while vegetarian diets lower disease risk in middle-aged individuals, the opposite is true for those over 65, who can significantly reduce these risks by adding fish to their diet.
채식이 중년층의 질병 위험을 낮추는 건 맞지만 65세 이상 노년층에는 오히려 그 반대며 후자의 경우 생선을 식단에 추가하면 이런 위험이 크게 줄어든다는 연구 결과가 나왔습니다. All right, tell us more about this.
Basically, I need to go vegetarian for the next 19 years and then go pescatarian.
Okay.
That's what's
Do
happening.
elaborate.
So middle-aged people going vegetarian, having a vegetarian diet is really good for you. It's lowering the risk of disease. However, when you hit 65, it becomes the opposite. You need to have some of that animal protein,
Yeah.
and fish is recommended. So in the elderly vegetarians, they saw slightly higher risks for things like strokes, dementia, and Parkinson's disease. But when fish was added to the diet, that risk was significantly reduced. And so you're more likely to live longer and live more healthily. But if we look at it overall, if you eat a vegetarian diet, you have 12% less risk than those who have a meat-eating diet. And if you have a pesco-vegetarian diet, fish and vegetables, 18% less risk. So a little bit of fish goes a long way.
중년층 같은 경우에는 채식 굉장히 좋다고 합니다. 여러 가지 health benefit가 많이 있는 거죠. 건강을 굉장히 증진시켜주는 그런 식단이에요. 그런데 모든 연령대가 다 그렇진 않습니다. 65세 이상 노년층 같은 경우는 채식만 하면은 오히려 안 좋을 수도 있다. 그럴 때는 이제 생선 같은 이제 식물성 단백질을 추가하는 것이 굉장히 좋다. 네, 저 동물성 단백질이죠. 아이고, 생선이 왜 갑자기 식물이 됐을까요? I think I need some fish or some vegetables
Well,
right
they
now.
say it's good for the brain. They say that oily fish is good for the brain.
Right, my brain's not working, as you
dear.
can see. Is there a definition for middle-aged individuals?
Us?
So what age bracket are we talking about?
This has changed over the years.
Yeah.
For me, and this is me personally, I would say 40s and 50s.
Okay.
I think when you get to 60, because in many countries 60 or 65 is the retirement age, that you could be seen as being elderly or getting towards being elderly. However, in your 40s and your 50s, you're middle-aged, you can't say you're young at 40. Sorry, Sue. That's not how it works.
I am young and over 40. What are you talking about?
We'll have words after the show, Sue.
자, 중년층 영어로 middle-aged person, people, individuals 이런 단어 붙일 수 있고요. 그다음에 이제 뭐 장년층이 되면은 elderly.
Yeah, the elderly. In the UK, we often use OAPs. In the US, senior citizens.
그렇죠. OAP는 old aged pensioner인
네.
거죠. 네. 근데 이제 그냥 OAP라는 약자를 영국에서 많이 씁니다. 그러니까 연금 수령을 받는 이제 연령대가 있으신 분들 뭐 이런 건데 미국에서는 senior citizen이라는 말을 많이 하고 이제 그 노년층이 되겠죠. And so we have, different diets are recommended for different age groups. For the middle-aged individuals, a vegetarian diet is great, as you said.
Yes.
But the opposite is true for the elderly.
Yeah, and if we use the opposite is true, that means we've had statement A, and when we use the opposite is true, meaning B is not the case. So it's a way of clarifying it's like this for this group, but it's not for this group or this situation, but not for this situation.
Right. The opposite is true. 이건 이제 그 반대에 해당된다라는 뜻입니다. 중년층 같은 경우에는 채식만 해도 괜찮아요. 그렇지만 노년층은 그 반대다라는 것은 채식만 하면 별로 안 좋아요. 이 얘기가 되겠죠. 자, 그래서 여기서 true라는 건 진실이다라는 뜻이 있어서 우리 진실 혹은 거짓 영어로는 true or false라고 합니다.
네.
Not true or lie. 이거 아니고요. True or
no,
false.
True or false is the expression we always use.
Exactly. 자, 그러면 다시 한번 제가 읽어볼게요. Scientists have found that while vegetarian diets lower disease risk in middle-aged individuals, the opposite is true for those over 65, who can significantly reduce these risks by adding fish to their diet. Let's move on to the final headline.
A report by Korea Credit Data finds that individuals in their 20s and 30s are the largest patrons of bars and cafes across all age groups, whereas those in their 40s and 50s tend to frequent fast food and bunchik restaurants.
한국 신용데이터가 내놓은 보고서에 따르면 국내 20대와 30대는 술집과 카페를 가장 많이 이용하는 반면 40대와 50대는 패스트푸드와 분식을 자주 찾는 것으로 나타났습니다. Oh, interesting. Tell us more.
It is, and it's also wide-ranging. The report covered something like 60,000 of these establishments. So we're talking restaurants, bars, cafes, bakeries, basically everywhere you could get food or drink. And what they found was that those in their 20s and 30s, they accounted for 52.4% of sales at bars. So they're the ones going out and having a good time at the bars. Whereas if you're in your 40s and 50s, if you're middle-aged, Sue, you're more likely to be spending your money at fast food restaurants or at these bunchik restaurants or some of these snack bars. So for fast food, 27% of sales went to those in their 40s. Did you have a hamburger yesterday?
I did not.
Okay, you're not one of those. And then the 50s were 26% of sales.
Interesting. 소비 경향을 보는 겁니다. 그래가지고 이제 전체 연령대 중에서라는 뜻의 across all age groups라는 표현이 나와 있어요. 그 중에서 이제 보니까 bars and cafes 이제 술을 판매하는 곳들과 카페는 누가 제일 많이 오는가? 20대와 30대가 많이 오더라.
네.
그다음에 이제 분식점, 그다음에 패스트푸드 매장 40대와 50대가 소비를 많이 하더라. 이런 트렌드예요. I would have thought people in their 40s and 50s would be more health conscious and wouldn't go to fast food restaurants.
Well, we're not talking about everybody going, but it's sort of the number of patrons. What's interesting, more men than women are going to bars, fast food restaurants and Korean restaurants. And more women are going to Western-style restaurants or non-Korean Asian restaurants and bakeries and dessert shops. So there is a gender divide in terms of where people are going.
주변만 살펴봐도 그런 이제 선호도가 있는 것 같아요. 남성분들은 한식 그다음에 아까 또 어디 많이 간다 그랬죠?
Fast food and bars.
패스트푸드와 그다음에 술을 마실 수 있는 곳들. 그다음에 여성 같은 경우에는 지금 그 서양 음식을 먹을 수 있는 식당이라든지 그다음에 아까 카페라고 하셨나요?
아시아 음식. It's not Korean but Asian food and then bakeries and dessert places.
같은 곳들. 네, 그런 데를 좀 더 많이 찾는다고 합니다. 이 설문조사에 의하면. 자, patron 볼게요.
Yes, a patron is a customer. We talk about a cafe's patrons or a restaurant's patrons. Those are the people who are going there. Those are the people who frequent there. And notice the pronunciation of frequent, not frequent.
That's right, because it's a verb in this case.
Yes.
자, 자주 간다라는 동사 frequent는 이제 frequent라는 형용사랑은 좀 강세가 다르죠. 자, 그다음에는 patron이라는 게 이제 고객이라는 뜻이에요. 우리 단골 할 때는 a regular 이렇게 많이 표현을 하고요. patron이라고 할 수도 있나요? 단골 손님?
I think you'll talk about patrons as opposed to a patron. Because when we call someone a patron, there's another meaning here, which is they're somebody who donates to an organization, who sort of funds, like, for example, some theaters, they will have the names of people on the backs of the seats because they've given money to support the theater. They're patrons.
그렇죠. 그때는 이제 후원자라는 뜻인데 그런 의미 말고 여기서는 고객이라는 의미로 patron이라는 단어를 썼습니다. P-A-T-R-O-N. 그 다음으로 tend to do something.
So if you have a choice, do you go for rice or noodles?
Rice.
So you tend to eat rice.
I do.
Yes, so if we tend to do something, we're more likely to do it. It's the more frequently chosen choice.
자, tend to 하고 뒤에 반드시 이제 동사가 나올 때 뭐뭐 하는 경향이 있다라고 해석을 합니다. I tend to go to the gym every day.
Yeah.
It's not true, but
But it can be. I tend to cry at sad movies.
Oh, that's true. Yeah. 슬픈 영화를 보면은 대체로 운다. 내가 이런 경향이 있는 거니까 주로 이러하다. I tend to 하고 동사가 나올 때는 이렇게 해석을 하고요. 그다음에 tend to 하고 명사, 어떤 상대, 사람 이렇게 나오면은 누구를 이게 대한다라는 뜻이 있어요. 그래가지고 레스토랑에서 I'll tend to you in a minute. 그러면 잠시 후에 제가 고객님 뭐라 그럴까요? 고객님에게 뭐 필요한 거 묻고 이렇게 뭐라고 해야 되지 우리말로는?
No, I'll look after you. I'll deal with you. I'll give you what you want.
네.
I have to tend with my cats after the show.
그러니까 다룬다는 뜻이 원래는 있는데 이제 좀 두루두루 다르게 해석을 할 수 있겠고요. tend to 뒤에 이렇게 사람, 뭐 고양이 이렇게 상대가 나왔을 때는 좀 다른 의미예요. 그래서 근데 우리가 지금 보는 거는 tend to 동사입니다. All right, well, here's the headline again. A report by Korea Credit Data finds that individuals in their 20s and 30s are the largest patrons of bars and cafes across all age groups, whereas those in their 40s and 50s tend to frequent fast food and 분식 restaurants. Well, that's it for the headlines with Paul Matthews.
Korean cultural centers in 28 countries around the world are set to hold various events promoting the value and beauty of the Korean language as the nation marks the 578th Hangul Day.
네, 오늘 제578돌 한글날을 맞아 전 세계 28개국 제외 한국문화원에서 한글의 가치와 아름다움을 알리는 다양한 기념 행사가 열릴 예정입니다. Okay, tell us more.
Yeah, so many different things going on in so many different parts of the world in celebration of the 578th Hunger Day. So the center in France will be providing the first performance of a song created by South Korean performance Kim Dae-sung that was inspired by King Sejong, who created hunger, and it was by medieval French poet and composer Guillaume de Machaut. And the centers in Los Angeles and Russia will hold poetry recitation competitions, while Korean-speaking contests will be held in cultural centers in New York, Vietnam, Spain, Turkey, and South Africa. And Korean literary works that have been translated and published in Indonesia will be put on display in the Cultural Center in Indonesia, while a special exhibition of cultural items using Hangul will be held in the center in Shanghai.
Sounds like there's going to be a wide array of activities and events going on to mark Hangul날 across the world. The expression used here is that an event will be held or events will be held.
Right. So to hold, when we think of hold, we think of something, holding something in one's hand. But to hold something here means to organize or to be responsible for or to have an event. So in an event in this case would be like a social event or a party.
Yeah, exactly. 행사가 열린다라고 할 때 그 열리다에 해당되는 동사가요. 여기서는 hold입니다. 원래 이제 개최하다라는 뜻이 있죠. 그래서 이런 행사가 개최된다, 열린다. These cultural centers around the world, Korean cultural centers, will hold various events. The next expression is value.
Right, so when we are talking about the value of the Korean language or value of the Korean alphabet, Hangul, we're talking about its importance or its worth.
그렇죠? 가치라는 뜻이죠. value. 그럼 우리가 이제 어떤 가격 얘기할 때도 이제 가성비를 말할 때 it's worth. What's the expression? I can't think of it. You can maybe say this is worth its value, or it's affordable considering how valuable it is, I suppose.
Yeah, the only expression that comes to mind right now is getting a big bang for the buck.
Yes, that's another one. Exactly.
It doesn't have value in it, but yeah.
Value for money. I think that was the expression I was thinking of.
Yeah, it's a good value for what it's worth, what it cost. Yeah.
네, 이렇게 표현할 수도 있습니다. 자, 그래서 무언가의 가치, 중요성, value. Right, here's the headline again. Korean cultural centers in 28 countries around the world are set to hold various events promoting the value and beauty of the Korean language as the nation marks the 578th Hangul날, or Hangul Day. Let's move on to the next headline.
This year's Nobel Prize in Physiology or Medicine has been awarded to U.S. scientists Victor Ambrose and Gary Rufkin for their discovery of microRNA, a molecule that governs how cells in the body function.
올해 노벨 생리의학상은 몸속 세포의 기능을 관장하는 분자 microRNA를 발견한 미국 생물학자 빅터 엠브로스와 게리 러브컨에게 돌아갔습니다. Well, this whole week, there's going to be announcement after announcement for the different Nobel Prizes. When we were writing up this headline last night, the prize for physiology or medicine had been announced. Right now, as we're doing the live show, the Nobel Prize in Physics, the winner for that has also been announced. So let's give a little update there. Can you tell us who won the physics prize?
Right. So the 2024 Nobel Prize in Physics has been awarded to scientists John Hopfield and Geoffrey Hinton for foundational discoveries and inventions that enable machine learning with artificial neural networks, and their work developed the foundations of the current boom in machine learning and artificial intelligence.
자, 올해 노벨 물리학상 수상자로는요, AI 머신 러닝 기계학습의 기초를 확립한 공로로 존 홉필드 그리고 제프리 힌튼이 선정됐다는 업데이트 소식까지 전해드립니다. 자, 이렇게 이번 주 내내 노벨상 수상자가 발표가 됩니다. 여러 분야가 있기 때문이죠. 자, 일단 오늘 헤드라인에서 얘기하고 있는 생리의학상, 영어로는 the Nobel Prize in Physiology or Medicine.
Right.
Tell us more.
Right. So these two professors, it was a collaborative project. Professor Ambrose is 70 years old and he works at the University of Massachusetts Medical School. Professor Rufkin is 72 and is a professor at Harvard Medical School. And their discoveries help explain how complex life emerged on Earth and how the human body is made up of a wide variety of different tissues. So they're saying that every cell in the human body contains the same raw genetic information that's locked in our DNA, but despite starting with the identical genetic information, the cells of the human body are very different in form and function. If you think about it, some cells, they perform like our neural cells are different from the cells in our fingernails and the cells in our liver. So this variety, they say, can arise from the same starting material because of gene expression. And these U.S. scientists were the first to discover microRNAs and how they exert control on how genes are expressed differently in different tissues. So the Nobel Academy said that their groundbreaking discovery revealed a completely new principle of gene regulation that turned out to be essential for multicellular organisms, including humans.
Right. 좀 말이 어려울 수는 있는데요. 아무래도 이게 전문 용어들이
Yes.
많이 표현이 되다 보니까 이 마이크로 RNA라고 하는 게 우리말로는 이제 리보핵산이라고도 하는데 유전자의 발현을 조절하는 거래요. 근데 80년대에는 이 존재조차 알려지지 않았었고 90년대 초반에 드디어 발견이 된 겁니다. 바로 지금 얘기한 두 교수의 발견으로 인해서 계속해서 지금 연구가 진행이 되고 있는 것이죠. 영어로는 the microRNA's control, 조절한다, gene expression, 유전자 발현 이렇게 표현을 하더라고요.
Yeah.
자, 뭐 깊이 들어갈 수는 없어서
Very
제가
technical.
네,
Yeah.
그래서 이렇게 표현만 좀 알려드릴게요. 자, 수상하다, 상을 받다 영어로는 be awarded something.
Be awarded. So if you are given like it could be a payment or a compensation, in this case a prize, we use the term you are awarded with a prize.
That's right. A is awarded with a prize. A가 어떤 상을 받다. And to govern, let's look at that word.
Right. So it's used as a verb and it means to control, influence, or regulate. It could be a person, it could be an action, or even a course of events.
네, 여기서는 이제 조절하다의 의미로 쓴 거죠. govern이라는 게 뭐 제어하다, 지배하다, 통제하다 이런 의미가 다 있는데 여기서는 그 구체적으로 microRNA가 유전자 발현을 조절하는 역할을 한다고 하니까 control의 의미로 govern을 이해하면 될 것 같습니다. 자, 그리고 참고로 여기서 a molecule that governs how cells in the body function. 그래서 이 function이 동사라는 것 또 참고해서 들으시면 되겠습니다. 자, 다시 한번 읽어볼게요. This year's Nobel Prize in Physiology or Medicine has been awarded to U.S. scientists Victor Ambrose and Gary Ruvkin for their discovery of microRNA, a molecule that governs how cells in the body function.
Tunisia's incumbent president Kais Saied has secured a second 5-year term with a landslide victory despite the election recording one of the lowest turnouts in the country's history.
역대 최저 수준의 투표율을 보인 튀니지 대선에서 카이스 사이에드 현 대통령이 압승을 해 5년 임기 연임에 성공했습니다. Alright, so tell us more about this.
Right, so this is according to Tunisia's Independent High Authority for Elections, or ISIE. It said that Saied had won 90.7% of the vote in Sunday's election on a turnout of 27.7%. Also on the ballot was ex-lawmaker Zuhair Magzaoui, who was Said's ally turned foe. And they said that the turnout was higher than the 11% of the country's 9 million eligible voters who had turned out for December's local elections, but still historically low. And observers said that it offered an insight into the discontent among many Tunisians as the country slides into authoritarian rule. So more about Saied. He came into power in 2019 in the second election after the Arab Spring protests that led to the ousting of former strongman Ben Ali, who had been in power for more than 2 decades. Since then, the incumbent president has suspended parliament, and he backed a referendum that granted him sweeping powers 2 years ago. So multiple dissidents and opposing figures include former Member of Parliament Syed Farjani, who has been detained and remain in captivity with restricted access to family members and legal representation.
Exactly. The criticism that Kais Saied is getting right now is that Tunisia is going back to being an autocratic government.
Yeah, it's kind of going back to the same thing.
Yeah, exactly. 다시 이제 독재 시대로 돌아가는 거 아니냐 이런 비판을 받고 있어요. 현 대통령인 사이에드 대통령이 재선에 성공을 일단 했다는 소식이고요. 전체 투표율 같은 경우에는 28%가 채 안 됐습니다. 10명 중 3명도 투표를 안 한 거죠. 그런데 득표율은 90%가 넘었습니다. 그래서 압승이기는 합니다. 자, 그러면 우리 이제 이 표현 좀 볼게요. 현 대통령, present president 이렇게 하지 않고
Yeah.
incumbent president.
Yeah, I think we use the word current president as well.
Yes,
right?
yes.
But incumbent is what we usually say. So if someone is incumbent, it doesn't always have to be the president, but it refers to an official or it could be a regime as well that currently holds office.
Exactly. Incumbent. It's one word, INCUMBENT, and it means this person is holding office right now. 지금 현재 재임 중인 이런 뜻이에요. 그래서 현직 대통령, the incumbent president 이렇게 표현을 하고요. And the turnout was very low.
Right. So turnout, we're speaking of voter turnout here. So it's the number of people attending or taking part in an event. In this case, it would be the number of people voting in an election.
그렇죠. 여기서 말하는 turnout는 투표율이 될 텐데 turnout라는 것 자체는 사람들이 나타났다 이런 뜻이에요. voter turnout 이렇게 표현을 하는 게 이제 좀 더 엄밀히 따졌을 때 투표율인데 그 voter라는 단어를 맥락에 따라서 누구나 알 수 있으면 생략할 수 있습니다. 그래서 여기서 this election recorded one of the lowest turnouts in the country's history라고 했어요. 투니시아의 대선 투표 중 이렇게까지 낮은 투표율이 기록이 된 적이 없다고 합니다. 자, 그러면 다시 한번 읽어볼게요. Tunisia's incumbent president, Kais Saied, has secured a second 5-year term with a landslide victory, despite the election recording one of the lowest turnouts in the country's history. Let's move on to the next headline.
An analysis from the world's longest-lived populations reveals that the rapid improvements in life expectancy achieved in the 20th century have slowed dramatically in the past 3 decades.
세계에서 기대 수명이 가장 높은 인구를 대상으로 실시한 연구 결과 20세기 들어 가팔랐던 기대 수명 증가 추세가 지난 30년 새 뚜렷하게 둔화한 것으로 나타났습니다. Right, so let's talk about how long people are going to live and this research.
Right. So, it seems like we've been making leaps and strides in terms of people increasing their life expectancy. But maybe we've reached a plateau, is what scientists are basically saying. So the study, it delved into national statistics from the U.S. and 9 regions with the highest life expectancies, focusing on 1990 to 2019, and that's before COVID struck, so we can't blame everything on COVID.
Right.
So the data comes from Hong Kong, Japan, South Korea, Australia, France, Italy, Switzerland, Sweden, and Spain, and it showed that rises in life expectancy had slowed dramatically. So according to the study, children born recently in regions with the oldest people are far from likely to become centenarians, which means they will live to be 100. And at best, these researchers predict 15% of females and 5% of males in the oldest living areas will reach 100 this century. So we've seen a lot of advancements in public health and medicine, which kind of sparked this longevity revolution in the 20th century. So in the previous 2,000 years, the life expectancy crept up on average 1 year every century or two. But in the 20th 20th century, the average life expectancy, it rocketed with people gaining an extra 3 years every decade. But the period of radical life extension prompted some researchers to extrapolate the trend and suggest more people born after 2000 would survive to be 100 years old. But they're saying that after this prospect, it's being challenged in 1990 by a lot of researchers who are arguing that it's not going to go up to 100, but it's there's sort of a biological ceiling at about 85.
Yeah, because, you know, we've been using the expression 100세 시대 for a long time now.
Yeah.
And it kind of feels like everyone's going to live until the age of 100. But I guess when you go into the specifics and look at research like this, that's not really the case.
No.
Although, you know, some people will live to be 100 or
Maybe more people than in the past.
Exactly. 과거에 비해서는 아무래도 이제 확실히 100세까지 살 확률이 높아지긴 했지만 우리가 이제 100세 시대 해가지고 그러면은 과연 몇 퍼센트 사람이 몇 세까지 진짜 산다는 것이냐라는 것을 좀 구체적으로 얘기하는 게 이 연구 결과네요. 그래서 이제 보면은 2010년 이후에는 이제 기대 수명이 조금 둔화했다고 합니다. 그 전에까지는 엄청 많이 올라가지고 기대 수명이 이제 점점 높아져서 뭐 90세까지 산다, 100세까지 산다 이런 얘기들이 쭉 나오다가 최근 몇 년 사이에 태어난 아이 같은 경우에는 100세까지 살 확률이 남녀가 차이가 있는데요. 여성은 5% 정도, 남성은 2% 정도라고 합니다. 최근 몇 년 사이에 태어난 아이는 그렇고 자, 2019년에 태어난 아이 같은 경우에는 100세까지 살 확률이 여성은 13%, 남성은 4% 정도라고.
Well, I mean, we do know that women tend to have a longer life expectancy than men. Yeah.
그래서 이제 뭐 몇 년도에 태어났느냐에 따라서 조금씩은 요 데이터가 다르긴 하지만 평균적으로는요. 이제 출생을 언제 했느냐에 따라서 100세까지 살 확률이 여성 같은 경우는 한 15%까지 내다볼 수 있을 것 같고 남성은 5% 정도 이렇게 보인다고 합니다.
So even though we hear, you know, oh, we're going to live to 100, we're going to live to 100, these researchers are saying that if you are planning for retirement, it's probably not a good idea to assume that you're going to make it to 100. That means you're going to be in that 15%, you know, if you're a woman, and 5% if you're a man. So you might want to work for maybe 10 years or longer than you think, and then enjoy that last phase of your life. So you don't necessarily want to spend it working to save for that time you might not get to experience.
Exactly. Well, this research was based on the analysis of 8 countries, 8 of the longest lived populations. You mentioned them earlier on. Japan, Korea, Australia, France, Italy, Switzerland, Sweden, and Spain. 그래서 이제 기대 수명이 좀 긴 나라들을 대상으로 연구를 한 겁니다. Longest lived is our first expression.
Right, longest lived. So in comparison to other countries, these people or these countries are the longest lived countries. So it means that you are living or lasting for a long time or the longest time.
Exactly. 자, longest lived니까 뭐 가장 오래 사는 최장수의 이런 의미가 될 거고요. Dramatically
it means suddenly or obviously.
아주 극적으로라는 뜻이 되겠습니다. 자, 참고로 이제 기대 수명 영어로는 life expectancy. Well, here's the headline again. An analysis from the world's longest lived populations reveals that the rapid improvements in life expectancy achieved in the 20th century have slowed dramatically in the past 3 decades. Let's move on to the next headline.
An analysis from the world's, that was the former headline. Rome's iconic Trevi Fountain will undergo a 2-month cleanup during which some visitors will have the rare opportunity to visit the Baroque masterpiece up close from a suspended walkway, according to local authorities.
로마의 대표적인 명소 트레비 분수가 2달간의 청소 작업에 들어감에 따라 이 시기 일부 방문객들은 주변의 간이 통로를 이용해 전례 없이 가까이에서 분수대의 걸작 조각품을 감상할 수 있게 될 것이라고 당국이 전했습니다. 네, 그러니까 한마디로 이 트레비 분수가 일단은 폐쇄가 돼요. 연말까지 평소처럼 볼 수는 없다. So tell us more.
Yeah, so it's kind of good news and bad news at the same time. So if you are visiting Rome's Trevi Fountain in the next few months, you are likely to have a somewhat disappointing view of the site, which is currently undergoing renovations. So in the coming months, visitors will only be able to approach, it's one of the most beloved, I think, attractions of Rome.
Yep.
So they're going to be able to only see it through this walkway that was built while restoration is underway. You can also visit the piazza in front of the fountain, but barriers will be blocking access to the water. And one of the popular things that a lot of people do is throw the coins.
Yeah.
Right. But I don't think you'll be able to do that because the whole lower area of the water basin has been cordoned off. However, the good side is that this temporary walkway over the fountain will give visitors a chance to see the Trevi Fountain up close from an unusual perspective in small groups. They say that it should be ready in about a month. Okay. And while restoration or the renovation work at Trevi Fountain is to be finished by the year's end, they say that the restrictions may remain in place during 2025 as the city marks a jubilee. And this is why a lot of these restorations are going on.
Yeah, exactly. Well, like you said, it's going to be closed off to the public for the most part of the next couple of months. So if you're planning on going to Rome,
yeah.
Is it Rome? Yes. Then make sure that you have everything.
Keep that in mind.
checked.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah.
로마의 유명한 트레비 분수가 이제 2달 동안 문을 닫습니다. 청소 작업 때문에 공사로 인해서 그러니까 연말까지 접근하는 거는 좀 어렵지만 아예 안 되는 건 아니에요. 접근이 제한이 되는데 자, 이 공사를 하면서 트레비 분수가 왜 여러분 조각상 같은 게 있고 그 다음에 앞에 쭉 그 분수 물이 있기 때문에 조각상을 코앞에서 볼 수는 없잖아요. 그런데 이번에 공사하면서 위에다가 간이 통로를 만들어가지고 밑에는 다 막아놨지만 그 조각상을 좀 더 가까이에서 볼 수 있는 드문 기회는 생긴다고 합니다.
Yep.
네. 자, 첫 번째 표현 볼게요. This is going to undergo some sort of operation.
Right. So when we use the word undergo, it usually has sort of a negative connotation. So we use it when we're going through or experiencing, or if something is subjected to something unpleasant. It could be painful, like a surgery. We say someone's undergoing surgery, or something that's arduous, like an arduous task.
Yes. To undergo something이라는 것은 어떤 일을 겪다라는 뜻으로 많이 쓰고요. 우리 수술을 받다라고 할 때도 undergo surgery라고 하는데 여기서는 undergo a cleanup라고 했습니다. 뭐 청소라고 해석할 수도 있겠지만 좀 정확하게 말하면은 특별 유지 관리 공사가 시작이 되는 거고요. 자, 그다음에 이제 up close, you'll be able to see some of the sculptures.
Yeah. So up close means at a very close range.
그렇죠. 아주 가까이에서라는 뜻으로 이제 up close라고 하고 있습니다. 그래서 지금 벌써 이제 주황색 그물 펜스가 쳐져 있대요. 그러니까 이제 로마에 계신 분들 아니면은 뭐 여행을 계획하시는 분들은 놀라지 마시고 네, 임시로 지금 이렇게 유지 관리 공사가 진행되는 동안에 그렇게 하는데 이렇게 하는 이유가 카톨릭 그 희년이라고 합니다.
Yeah.
Year of the Jubilee. 요게 이제 다가오고 있어서 그래서
year. Yep.
깨끗하게 이렇게 보수를 하고 있다고 합니다. 자, 다시 한번 제가 읽어볼게요. Rome's iconic Trevi Fountain will undergo a 2-month cleanup, during which some visitors will have the rare opportunity to view the Baroque masterpiece up close from a suspended walkway, according to local authorities. Well, that's it for today's headlines with Karen.
South Korea has secured a spot in the FTSE Russell's World Government Bond Index 2 years after being on the watch list, and the actual index inclusion will begin in November next year.
우리나라가 FTSE 러셀의 세계 국채지수 편입에 성공했습니다. 이는 관찰 대상국으로 지정된 지 2년 만의 성과로 실제 지수 반영 시점은 내년 11월 이후가 될 예정입니다. Tell us more.
Well, a bit of a surprise, actually, that this happened. So we're talking about Korean government bonds here, or sovereign bonds is the other phrase you'll hear. So they've been, now it will be eventually added to the FTSE Russell's benchmark bond index, and this is expected to give the currency a real boost. The Korean won. Which is down 4% against the dollar so far this year. And this will attract billions of dollars of inflows over the next few years. Now, the currency, the reason for that is when people want to buy, especially foreigners want to buy, and this can be institutional investors, want to buy Korean bonds, they need to buy the currency first. So then the demand for the currency goes up. The government's projecting that this could lead to as much as 80 trillion won, which is nearly $60 billion flowing into the bond market in Korea. And this is going to be a very welcome source of funds, considering Korea is the world's fastest aging country, and welfare costs are definitely going to surge over the next few years, the next coming decades. Now, in order to gain inclusion in the index, because as it says, they're on a watch list here. So meaning they've been considered for inclusion for a while. However, Korea had to complete a number of significant market reforms before they were included. So some of the ones for this are extending trading hours for the won because it's so important that foreigners have access to the won. And before, it was only during Korean business hours. So that was really hard for other countries to get involved in that.
Now they can do it in other hours as
well.
Right.
Exactly. It's I think eventually it's going to get extended to 24 hours a day. Not at the moment, but it will be eventually. As well as third-party foreign exchange transactions. And the big one here is improving access to the government bond market for foreign investors. And the other good thing here is it's quite significant. This is going to bring a lot of money. Korean bonds are going to become a lot more attractive. It'll help people who earn Korean won when we want to travel or send money abroad. That's going to help. And there also could be what's called a trickle-down effect into the corporate bond market as well. Because more than likely, Korean government bonds will become more expensive, and then investors might also start looking at corporate bonds in Korea as well.
이게 그 세계 국채 지수에 들어간 게 굉장히 많은 의미를 가지고 있네요. It's very significant. 굉장히 의미가 있다라고 했는데, 일단은 이제 우리나라가 이 세계 국채 지수에 들어갔다라는 것은 우리나라의 화폐 가치가 올라갈 수 있다라는 것을 시사한다고 합니다. 그러니까 이제 실제로는 내년 11월에 편입이 되는 것인데 편입에 성공했다라는 소식은 지금 들려오고 있고 그로 인해서 이제 원화의 가치가 올라간다라고 하면은 원화를 외국으로 보내야 되는 경우라든지 이렇게 이제 환전을 했을 때 여러 가지로 좀 유리한 그런 경우들이 생길 수도 있을 것 같네요. 현재는 한국의 원화가 미국 달러화에 비해서 가치가 좀 떨어진 상태라고 볼 수 있는데 이거 좀 올라갈 것 같습니다. 그런 의미가 일단은 있다. 이렇게 보고 있는 것인데 이유를 또 설명해 주셨어요. 왜 그러냐면은 이제 국채를 사들이기 위해서는 한국 돈을 사들여야 하기 때문에 외국 투자자들이 그래서 이제 한국의 가치, 한국 원화의 가치가 올라간다. 이 리스트 안에 들어가게 되면 네, 그렇습니다. 일단은 지금 첫 번째 표현을 좀 볼 텐데요. 이게 지금 그동안에는 어떤 리스트, 관찰 대상국 리스트에 있었다가 드디어 이제 세계 국채 지수에 들어갔습니다라는 발표가 나온 거죠. So for the past 2 years, over about 4 different occasions, South Korea tried to get on this list, but it was on the watch list, and it didn't actually get the final okay until now.
It wasn't included into the index, right.
Yeah.
But being on a watch list, this can be, there's lots of usages for this. Basically, it's a list of people or things that someone is watching closely. So, for example, it can be in the negative where it can be someone who's dangerous. And they might be in the US, the FBI watch list or a terrorist watch list. So when these people go to the airport or something like that, they're going to have a lot of problems. It can be for animals who are in danger. They could be on a watch list because they are in danger of becoming extinct or something like that. And then there could be good reasons. So sports teams will have certain players on their watch list who they might want to try to trade for or sign in the future, or investors will have stocks or bonds that they're interested in. They haven't bought them yet, but they're watching them to see
Yeah.
how they perform.
Yeah, exactly. So it's used in all different areas, apparently. 이 watch list라는 것은요, 감시 대상 목록이라는 뜻이 됩니다. 상황에 따라서는 이게 좀 위험한 사람이기 때문에 감시하는 게 될 수도 있고 아니면 유망주기 때문에 그래서 지켜보는 그런 리스트가 될 수도 있는 거죠. 좋은 의미, 나쁜 의미가 다 될 수 있는데 이런 워치리스트에 올라가 있었다. 그동안에는 이제 한국이 지금 얘기하고 있는 WGBI, 세계 국채지수 편입이 가능할 것 같다. 그러면서 지켜보는 그런 리스트에 있었던 거고요. 스포츠 선수들 중에서 굉장히 미래가 밝은데 하는 유망주들도 이런 워치리스트에 있지만 또 이제 범죄라든지 도주의 우려가 있는 그런 사람들도 이제 감시 대상 리스트에 올라갈 수 있죠. 이건 좋은 건 아니지만. So being on a watch list. And the next word is inclusion.
That's the act of being included in something. So this can be a person or just something, and then you're added to a group or a list, a collection, or an index in this case.
포함된다라는 뜻입니다. Inclusion. 자, 그러면은 다시 한번 제가 읽어볼게요. South Korea has secured a spot in the FTSE Russell's World Government Bond Index 2 years after being on the watch list, and the actual index inclusion will begin in November next year. Well, let's move on to the next headline.
The nation's peak electricity demand hit a new record in September as the scorching summer heat extended into the autumn season, according to the Korea Power Exchange.
전력거래소는 올해 여름철 폭염이 가을까지 이어진 영향으로 지난달 국내 최대 전력 수요가 최대치 기록을 경신했다고 발표했습니다. All right, let's talk about this.
Well, I think we all know how hot it was in September, so
Yeah.
this is not really any surprise, is it? So the country's peak power demand last month, we're obviously talking about September, averaged 78 gigawatts, which was a 6% increase from September of last year, and that's the highest level for any September on record. The increase was driven by higher electricity consumption, obviously, for things like air conditioning, and this was due to the heat wave that just kept going, but we are past that now, and the weather is perfect, in my opinion.
So hopefully when we get our electricity bill for this month, it'll be a lot lower.
Yeah, let's hope so.
Let's have a look at peak demand.
Peak is the highest point of something, so the peak of a mountain. So peak demand means the highest demand, and it's usually the summer months.
Exactly. 자, PEAK, peak는 정상 최고점이라는 뜻이 있어서 산 정상은 mountain peak라고 표현을 하고 peak demand는 최고 수요라는 뜻이 되겠죠. extend into.
Continue into something. So there has to be some type of line. I think a lot of times we're talking about time, for example. So my example would be you might be in a meeting at work and it goes a bit late and might extend into your lunch hour. Your lunch starts at 12, for example, and the meeting goes until 12:15. Well, okay, it's extended a bit into your lunch hour.
여기서는 과거 형태로 썼지만 보통 이제 현재로 쓴다면은 extend into 언제. 그래서 언제까지 이어진다. 이렇게 표현을 할 수 있습니다. Well, the nation's peak electricity demand hit a new record in September as the scorching summer heat extended into the autumn season, according to the Korea Power Exchange.
The number of imported electric vehicles newly registered in the country fell 40% year on year over the August-September period amid the public's lingering concerns over their safety.
전기차의 안전성에 대한 대중의 우려가 지속되면서 지난 8월과 9월에 국내에 신규 등록된 수입 전기차가 지난해 같은 기간보다 40% 감소한 것으로 나타났습니다. Tell us more.
Well, this is the first time since 2021 that the 2-month tally has been below 10,000. According to data compiled by the Korea Automobile Importers and Distributors Association, just over 6,800 imported EVs were registered in Korea over the August to September period. And that's, as we mentioned in the headline, 40% lower than last year. Last year was almost 11,500 during that time.
Wow.
And a big reason for this, as the headline also mentions, is growing safety concerns. And I think probably most people remember the big fire that an EV caused in a underground apartment parking garage in Incheon, where 100 vehicles were damaged and the parking lot was severely damaged as well. That incident has also prompted some parking lots to fully or partially ban EVs.
Interesting. 이 수입 전기차가 신규 등록된 대수가요. 올 8월과 9월에 6,800대 정도였다고 하는데 작년 같은 기간에는 11,400대였습니다. 작년이 훨씬 더 많았고요. 지금 줄어든 추세죠. 자, 첫 번째 표현 보겠습니다. Newly registered.
If you register for something, a lot of times it's signing up. You register for a class, so you enter your information, usually like your name and your phone number and all that stuff into some official list or some official record. So same with cars. You need to register your car, who owns it, what the car is, so then the government knows who has cars and which cars are on the roads.
Yeah, when you get married, you have to get registered as well.
Exactly, right.
Yeah, anything where you, as you said, where you
Officially, it's official.
officially put your name down and say, we've done this.
Yes, add me to the list.
자, register라는 게 이제 공식적으로 등록한다라는 뜻이 있고 앞에 newly가 붙었으니까 신규 등록된 이런 뜻이겠죠. What about lingering?
When something lingers, it lasts for a long time. It continues longer than maybe it should.
계속 남아있는 이게 잔향이 될 수도 있고요. 어떤 생각이 될 수도 있고 여기서는 lingering concerns니까 우려가 계속 남아있다라는 뜻이 되겠네요.
Yeah, they're continuing and maybe even a bit longer than we would think, but it's still there. There's some reason. Sometimes someone will get sick. Maybe you get a cold or something like that. You're pretty much recovered, but there might be some lingering effects, like you still have a cough, even though everything else is fine, but your cough persists for a couple extra weeks maybe.
Yeah, it goes on for a little longer than it should.
Right. Some people had lingering effects from COVID. Long COVID was something people, like that's the term.
That's right. Well, here's the headline again. The number of imported electric vehicles newly registered in the country fell 40% year on year over the August to September period amid the public's lingering concerns over their safety. Now, here's our next headline.
Global rivers experienced their driest year in over 3 decades in 2023, according to a new report by the World Meteorological Organization, highlighting critical shifts in water availability amid rising demand.
2023년은 최근 30년 만에 가장 빠르게 담수가 마른 건조한 해였으며 이는 세계가 물 공급이 부족할 위험에 처했음을 나타낸다는 세계 기상기구 보고서가 나왔습니다. Alright, let's talk about the driest year yet, or I suppose in the last 3 decades.
Well, according to the State of Global Water Resources report, the last 5 consecutive years have recorded widespread below normal conditions for river flows, with reservoir inflows following a similar pattern. So this reduces the amount of water available for communities, for agriculture, ecosystems, and this further stresses global water supplies. Another thing that the report mentioned was glaciers suffered their largest mass loss ever registered in the last 5 decades. This was in 2023. And it was the second consecutive year in which all regions in the world with glaciers reported ice loss.
Right, and yet, because you'd think, if the ice melted, we would have more water overall, but that's just not how it works. Let's have a look at highlighting something.
Think about like if you have a highlighter. Wait, what do you call it? A highlighter? The pen, the marker.
형광펜 in
right.
Korean,
So
yeah.
that emphasizes something. If you highlight something in a book, it'll draw your attention to that because you want to remember it. So when we use it this way, it means adds emphasis or draws your attention to something important or significant.
네, 형광펜을 영어로는 하이라이터라고 하는데요. 형광펜으로 이렇게 쫙 밑줄 그으면은 굉장히 중요하다라는 걸로 이제 생각하게 되는 거죠. 그래서 강조하다의 의미가 있습니다. To highlight, to stress 이런 거랑 비슷해요. 자, 그 다음에 availability.
Something with availability is easy to get or to access or to purchase. It's available. Even a person, right? Like you might call somebody and sorry, they're not available. You can't talk to them.
Exactly. Being available can also mean that you're available to date
You're single,
someone. Yeah,
right?
yeah. Available이라는 것은 쓸 수 있다, 뭔가 이제 가능하다 이런 뜻이 있잖아요. 사람한테 썼을 때는 시간이 있다가 될 수도 있고 아니면은 누구를 만날 수 있는 싱글인 그런 상태다 이런 의미가 될 수도 있습니다. 자, 여기서는 availability of water, 물이 얼마나 우리가 이용할 수 있는지 그렇게 해석할 수 있겠네요.
A lot of times you might ask someone what's their availability on a certain day. At work, maybe you want to have a meeting with them. What's your availability on Wednesday? Something,
so
for example.
That means, do you have time on
Right,
Wednesday?
right.
Yeah, yeah.
Or what time, when do you have time?
Exactly. 자, 그럼 다시 한번 읽어보겠습니다. Global rivers experienced their driest year in over 3 decades in 2023, according to a new report by the World Meteorological Organization, highlighting critical shifts in water availability amid rising demand. Now let's move on to the final headline.
A new study finds that different arm positions during blood pressure measurement, including resting on a surface, lap, or hanging, can significantly affect systolic pressure.
혈압 측정 시 팔을 책상 등 지지대 위에 올려놨을 때와 무릎 위에 올려놨을 때, 또 옆구리를 따라 축 늘어뜨렸을 때 등 팔의 위치에 따라 수축기 혈압이 크게 차이가 날 수 있다는 연구 결과가 발표됐습니다. Alright, tell us more.
So I guess we need to talk about blood pressure measurement in the first place. You always get two numbers.
Yeah.
So less than 120 over 80 is normal. So the first number, the 120, that's called systolic or systolic pressure. That refers to the amount of pressure in a person's arteries when the heart sends blood through the body. The lower number is called diastolic pressure. That's the bottom number. It's the pressure in the arteries between heartbeats. I had to look all this up. I'm definitely no expert on this type of thing. Now, what the researchers found is that when a person's arm hangs by their side during the reading, the upper number, the systolic pressure, was 6.5 points higher than when their arms were resting on a desk. And also the lower number was also higher as well. The diastolic pressure was 4.4 points higher. So why is this significant? Because these differences can lead to incorrect diagnoses of hypertension, and people can be prescribed medications that they don't need. If it's, oh yeah, you have high blood pressure, take all this medication, when you don't actually need it. And, you know, a lot of countries in the world are really quick to prescribe medication. And someone who was to receive blood pressure lowering medication that they don't need could actually have some bad side effects like lightheadedness, dizziness, fatigue, blurry vision. So it's quite important. So what they're saying is the correct arm position is resting on a surface, like on a desk.
Yeah, that's why the machines, I don't know if you've seen
Yeah.
those machines.
Oh, yeah, I've done those.
Yeah, they're all across the
Sure.
country and many different hospitals in Korea. You know, they make sure that you're in a particular position where your arm is rested.
And I read your arm is supposed to be at heart level or something as well. That's what
maybe.
it said. So usually
Yeah.
those machines, depending on how big you are, that's pretty much where you'd be at.
Yeah, exactly. And it says, I think it says like, don't talk while you're doing this. Make sure you're relaxed and calm, something like that. So I guess everything affects
Sure.
your heartbeat.
Right,
And you
exactly.
don't want to be diagnosed with something that you're not.
With
you know, if you-
hypertension, and
Yeah,
all of a sudden
hypertension.
you're getting, and that just means high blood pressure.
Right. 그래요. 이제 고혈압, 저혈압 이런 게 이제 잘못 진단이 나오면은 그에 따른 약 처방도 잘못 나올 수가 있으니까 정말 정확하게 재는 게 중요하겠죠. 그럴 때 이제 제일 좋은 거는 우리 그 혈압기에 우리가 보통 취하는 그 자세가 제일 좋다고 합니다. 자, blood pressure measurement 볼까요?
Yeah, so as we just mentioned, it's the blood pressure is the test that measures the force or the
Yep.
pressure in your arteries, your blood vessels, as your heart pumps.
Yes. 자, 그래서 blood pressure 이게 혈압이고요. measurement는 측정이니까 blood pressure measurement 혈압 측정이 되겠습니다. You mentioned high blood pressure, which is hypertension. Do we know what low blood pressure is called? Is there a word for
there
that?
probably is, but I don't know what it is.
Actually, I have it right now.
Oh, what
I'm
is it?
looking it up as I speak. It's hypotension with an O.
Hypotension.
Yeah, they sound really similar.
Right, right.
But one is hypertension, that's high blood pressure, and then you have hypotension, which is low blood pressure.
Yeah, I was told that I have slightly low blood pressure before.
Really?
Yeah.
아, 그래요. 고혈압, 저혈압. 그냥 이제 쉽게는 high blood pressure, low blood pressure. 조금 더 전문 용어로 쓰자면 hypertension, hypotension. 자, 다음으로 significantly affect 보겠습니다.
Significantly affect would mean to greatly influence something. So this could cause a major change or make a big difference. And as we read, the arm position can make a big difference and can lead to incorrect diagnoses. So,
Exactly.
yeah.
significantly는 굉장히 많이라는 의미가 있어요. 그래서 affect가 붙었기 때문에 많은 영향을 미친다, 큰 영향을 미친다라고 보면 되겠습니다.
Does caffeine greatly affect your sleep?
It does now.
Okay.
It didn't in my 20s.
Oh, really?
And I think 30s too, but I guess so because I can't sleep.
Yeah, it greatly affects mine. But like, I don't know. I've always noticed like a lot of Koreans will drink coffee at night. My wife will
Yeah.
drink coffee at night. I'm like, what are you doing? Like,
Yeah.
I have to cut caffeine off by like the latest I'll drink caffeine is usually 4 p.m.
Yeah.
And it's even better. Like I'll try to make it even earlier, 2 or
Yeah.
3.
I guess some people are just so exhausted that no amount of caffeine can keep them awake.
I guess. But they say it does affect the quality of your sleep.
Good point. All right, here's the headline again. A new study finds that different arm positions during blood pressure measurement, including resting on a surface, lap, or hanging, can significantly affect systolic pressure. Well, that's it for our headlines with Ray.